What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Sarah71 here, bringing another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Uchuu Sentai Kyuranger episode 31. This episode is called The Naga Rescue Operation, and it's a really good episode. This finally ends the whole Dark Naga saga, and we'll get into it in this review. It was a really good episode. It's definitely one that's worth watching, that you should totally watch because it was really good. And I just love Kyuranger. I also wanted to mention I am going to be doing a video, probably posting along with this one, for some recent information regarding the next possibly two, possibly one series that come after it. We'll get into why that is in that video, but I just want to give you guys that heads up that there will be another video coming out probably not long after this one does. So if you're interested, you definitely might want to look at that for the possibly 42nd and 43rd seasons of the show, or just the 42nd season. Still unclear. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this episode. The episode starts off with us basically seeing what happened at the very end of the last episode, where all the Kyurangers that were in the past come back to the present, see Hammy. Hammy points out that there's a screen, and that screen shows Don Armage, Akebamba, and Kakluger and all that are still there in the present. So they still are wondering, how could this be? In the meantime, what happens is they end up returning to the Orion after being away from it, and they realize that there has to be lots of repairs done to the ship. And they also discuss how apparently whatever they did in the past must have not have solved things for the present. Something must have happened that could have caused Don Armage to still live in the present. Most likely being someone else is Don Armage in the present, or his spirit took over someone. Again, I've heard rumors about what that is, and I'm not going to give it away for anyone that doesn't want to get spoiled by what is supposedly said to happen and why he exists. But anyway, they end up discussing things, and Hammy basically mentions how Garu and Kotaro were captured, and also Balance has been missing, so they don't know where Balance is. And when they went to fight Naga at last, that's what happened. So then what happens is we end up seeing Echidna show up, and Echidna shows up, and the Kyurangers think that she's Naga at first, but then they have to. Hammy basically has to explain to them that she is another person from his planet, and that she's here to actually, take him out because he's showing emotion. And on their planet, having emotion is a crime, and you can be killed for it. So the thing is that we learn that, and then we end up seeing Balance return, and he ends up bringing with him the Microscopium Kyotama, which is important, but we don't know why until following the credits, where we end up seeing the Kyurangers get into a battle with Naga, where and which Kyurangers are fighting. It's Tsurugi, Naga, Hammy, Spada, Lucky. Tsurugi, Naga, Spada, Hammy, Lucky, and I think there's one other, or maybe that's it. I think that's it. So then what happens is that the Kyurangers end up fighting Dark Naga, and what happens is that eventually Naga ends up doing this major attack because he wants to basically take out Balance. And the thing is that prior to that, we end up seeing Garu and Kotaro getting annoyed at Naga and complaining about how he's turned evil and all this stuff, while being prisoner. And then what happens is, I remember who the sixth one was. It was Stinger. That's right. And then what happens is that they end up fighting Naga, and at one point Naga almost takes out Balance, or at least it looks like it, but then Lucky gets in the way, blocks an attack, and then a major explosion happens, and the two of them disappear. All the Kyurangers cry, upset as ever, seeing that their comrades have fallen. And then Naga's happy and he rejoices and goes into a teleport. Goes into some sort of rift in space to go back to where he was keeping the other Kyurangers prisoner. So then we end up seeing a kid talking to them. Like, they basically suddenly rejoice a little bit because they're like, they don't really rejoice, but they're happy in the sense that they know that their plan worked. And she's like, well, why? And it's because apparently with the Microscopium Kyotama, the idea is that during this attack, they would use the Microscopium Kyotama because when Balance was fighting several of the Endeavors and the people that had their emotions change, several of them ended up having micro Endeavors inside them that were causing them to have these express these extreme emotions that they were having, and that led to it. So they thought that probably is what is happening with Naga. So Lucky and Balance go into Dark Naga's body to find the true Naga, the good Naga, and rescue him from the darkness that he's been facing. So in the meantime, the other Kyurangers figure out what they are gonna prepare to get into another battle. In the meantime, Naga is in the Naga ends up inside. The Dark Naga ends up talking to Garu and Kotaro again, and then at one point we end up seeing the other Kyurangers fighting Akebamba and some Suyo Endeavors. In the meantime, the Balance and Lucky end up fighting some micro Endeavors, and then at one point dealing with a micro Suyo Endeavor who is guarding the good Naga who is resting within his body. And the thing is that the micro Suyo Endeavor ends up summoning a miniature version of Dark Naga to fight the Kyurangers. And at one point, the micro Dark Naga ends up trying to destroy the good Naga, but then Balance ends up blocking it, and it looks like it's a completely destructive blow, but it doesn't take him out. And the thing is that Balance basically says, I can't imagine living in a world without Naga. I've lived with him for so long, I just don't want... it would be so hard for me, and he's just all emotional. And eventually, all the Kyurangers are calling out, and, the good Naga is starting to break through, and when he ends up... the Dark Naga in real... the normal Dark Naga ends up talking to Kotaro and Garu, and he starts feeling this, his emotions suddenly breaking through and his good half coming through a little bit, and it shows while the other Kyurangers keep on fighting, and eventually what happens is that the Dark Naga ends up getting into a fight with the Kyurangers, and at one point Hammy gives him a hug trying to calm him down and help him out, and eventually Balance and Lucky manage to bring him back with all the Kyurangers shouting out for him, even all the ones that are there, even the ones that are on the ship are calling out. And eventually, when the Dark Naga is about to attack and destroy Balance, suddenly the good Naga appears, and with that a tear, and with that tears come from the good Naga, and he begins to battle and defeat the Dark Naga within him, and that leads to him being in complete control. And then suddenly the Dark Naga has a tear that comes down, the markings on his eyes disappear, and suddenly the regular Naga, Balance, and Lucky appear outside of Naga's body, and then all three of them join the other Kyurangers as Naga begins to cry, and basically he says, Balance, Hammy, everyone, and he just feels so he's so shooken up, he's feeling emotion. And the reason why it's so important is because in a flashback that he had, he remembered that he wanted to cry like everyone else, and he finally had the chance to cry. And following this, what happens is the Kyurangers get into a battle with Akibanba, and also the Micro Suyo Endeavor ends up being turned gigantic, which basically means that he's just a Suyo Endeavor. Weird, but yeah. So then what happens is that from there, the Kyurangers end up fighting the giant Micro Suyo Endeavor and Akibanba and some regular Suyo Endeavors, as well as some regular Endeavors in combat. And Lucky finally showcases Shishi Red Orion mode in front of Hammy, so Hammy actually does make note of the fact that it's used, which is good that they actually mention that, because she wasn't there when he gained the ability, so that's good that they're acknowledging it. From there, he ends up attacking Akibanba, and then at one point, we even see Naga in balance fighting the giant Micro Suyo Endeavor, and then following this, Naga ends up talking to Akibanba, saying that, "Thank you, Akibanba, for teaching me to control my anger," and then he uses the dark Kyotama that he had to transform into his Hibitsukai metal form, but this time it's for good. So it's not a dark Hibitsukai metal, it's just a good one, which means that there's no eye symbol that he had on the uniform in the past. Before he had that big eye, that's gone now. It's the normal Kyotama symbol that he had in the past. So it's basically the same kind of robes and stuff, and it now just acts as a power-up, which is cool that we have 2 Kyurangers at least that are going to have power-ups this season. Possibly a third one, maybe more. I'm doubtful at this point. Probably it's just going to be these 2, and I'm not upset about that at all. I think that that's cool. It's also interesting that it's not the special ranger for the season, which in this case would be Ho-Ho Soldier. Like, it's good that it's someone that's still important, but isn't necessarily, the special ranger for the season. Anyway, from here, we end up seeing, Lucky and Naga fight using their powered up modes to battle Akibanba, and then she ends up coming over to them and says, "I was just playing with you. I was just making you act that way just so that you could play with me." And then she ends up running away and disappearing. Now that doesn't mean that she's going destroyed. It obviously just means that she's going to return later. So that's what happens there. From there, the Micro Suyo Endeavor that turned giant became even larger, and that's when the 6 Kyurangers that are there, which includes Lucky, Naga, Balance, Hammy, Spada, and Stinger, end up using Kyutamajin, even though they don't have all the other members, to fight the Micro Suyo Endeavor that's turned enormous this time, which is interesting. So then from there, they end up defeating it, and then we end up seeing Naga back at the base, basically saying, "I'm sorry for everything I did," and he ends up saying that, "But the good news is that I did learn something from my capture, which is that I've learned some intel regarding the location of Don Armage." So then at that point, they're happy about that, at least, because then they have a possible chance of knowing where to go to actually battle him finally, the present day one. As far as things go from there, we also see Echidna, who ends up talking to Naga and basically says that, like, showing emotion is something I still find unnecessary, but seeing what you were able to do with it, I see that there is power in it, and I will let you save the universe as you were doing before. And she's not going to destroy him, basically. So from there, she ends up leaving. We don't know if she's ever going to return, or what's going to happen. Maybe she'll return, maybe she won't. Still unclear exactly as to what's going to happen to her, and if this was meant to just be a temporary thing. But it still was important because it made you concerned with whether or not he'll be taken out there, and he wasn't. So from there, what ends up happening is that we end up seeing the preview for the next episode. The preview basically we end up seeing Raptor looking at the Orion ship, seeing that it's damaged, and thinking, "Oh, how will we repair you?" And she says, "Uncle," meaning that somehow the ship is related to her, Could also be that there's something more to that. I'm sure there is. Again, the other thing is the preview for the next episode looks like it's going to be focused on getting the ship working again, and also them fighting Kaklugler and some other enemy as well, which is the other Vice Shogun. Remember the Vice Shogun, and then some other enemy that has a unique look, not one of the Suyu Endeavors, something that actually has a unique appearance, which is good because I usually like those a little bit more because they're a little bit more original. Again, we're still fighting Vice Shogun and all that while fighting these the Suyu Endeavors and this other one, but we'll see what happens. It also seems like it's going to focus on Raptor, which is good because she's one of like the least focused on characters in the show. The most focused on character, the least focused on character overall is Hammy, but Raptor's she's had one focus episode. Hammy really hasn't had like an episode really focused in on her completely, at least so far, and we're already 31 episodes in, and we already know what's going to happen for 32 as far as like who's getting the focus. So yeah, I don't know, but I'd love to know your guys' opinions. Did you guys enjoy this episode? Are you excited for episode 32? Were you happy to see that the Hibitsukai metal form is not going away and that they actually are going to be keeping it? Do you think that we'll actually see more abilities come of it since he's now good? Since we only really got to see like his finisher, I wonder if there's other abilities that he'll have that I'm very curious about. So love to know your opinion. I am going to be posting a video as well following this that will be about some information regarding the next possibly 2 seasons, if not 1 season of Super Sentai, because there was just some confirmation revealed regarding some trademarks, and I wanted to talk about it because I'm sure many of you are interested and might want to know about it for the upcoming year. So please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Sarah 1, and goodbye, guys.